A lot more to this place than meets the eye, as Clarence here has been finding out.
This World Cup has been a great success on the field. But for me, the biggest positive is that it has brought the world attention to this continent and this beautiful country. Sport has always been a force of change in South Africa. And just 8 kilometers from our studio in Cape Town is Robben Island. No place better demonstrates the impact that sport can have. This prison island is where the apartheid government sent those who fought against the brutal and unjust regime.
I spent 5.5 years here.
What were the charges?
It was a whole lot of things, but in a nutshell, it was high treason.
And how do you feel, guiding us today?
To be honest with you, coming down to work here, it was not my aim. The first week or so, it was very difficult for me. But it helped me a lot. Coming down here, talking about the experiences in this prison, it helped me mentally, and it's like being in therapy. This is Nelson Mandela's cell. He spent 18 years in this cell.
The wall there, but this was his view.
Before 1976, these walls were not yet here.
Okay,
if you
so
are
it was
here, you
open
can
space.
see C-section on the other side. Then when the generation of 1976 uprisings came in here, they were staying, most of them were staying in C-section. So they would be sharing stories with the leadership in here. So the head of prison decided to build a wall to separate the three sections.
18 years.
Yeah, he spends 18 years in this cell.
18 years. Can you imagine in a space like this practically for such a long time, and then coming out after all those years and unite the whole country?
In winter, it's very, very cold in this section, and that's where they put our fathers to
cool off.
Yeah, instead of cooling off, they warmed up.
Yes.
The prison authorities kept Nelson Mandela and the other senior figures segregated, but they still found ways to share their leadership with the rest of the prisoners, giving them guidance during the struggle.
I would say discipline, commitment, to be selfless. It's what we learned from those old men. But here, they taught us so many things. And today, I'm what I am, it's because of those old men. They'll give you something to think about for a week. Is this possible?
Where are we now?
We are now in our football field. This is our Ellis Park Stadium. This is where we played our rugby and football. Right. Football was the life wire of this prison. Mm-hmm. If it's going to Saturday, everybody around here will be talking football. It's like Kaizer Chiefs is playing against Orlando Pirates, or Manchester United is playing against Manchester City in this field.
You said before about how football was so important in sports in general. Can you tell me why?
In fact, it was like a unifying factor. There was no club that belongs to the ANC or had only members of the PAC. It was all mixed up. Because the problem here in this prison was that if we did things according to our organizations, then there would be no unity when we are fighting against the authorities. But the team spirit in different teams brought this understanding of one another.
And how about Madiba?
Oh,
did he
Madiba.
play?
In fact, Madiba and the rest of the leadership, they were not allowed to come.
They were not allowed. Nobody. So where we were before, that's where they stayed the full 18 years.
Yeah. That was heartbreaking. In fact, we tried in 1988, just let them come and watch football, at least the summer games. But the head of prison won't budge on that.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I've got 2 boys.
And what do they think about the story?
They respect me for my involvement in politics, bringing about change in South Africa and all that, you know, it's like I'm the greatest in the house. But what I always tell them is that you don't have to be, you know, a big-headed somebody because you have just done that.
Do they do sports?
Yeah, they all love football.
Of course.
But the younger one likes cricket. But one of the things that I preach at home, that guys, got to get yourself education.
The lessons the revolutionaries of Robben Island learned on their football field helped them win the struggle against apartheid. Meeting people here in South Africa has confirmed my belief that sport and education can once again change people's lives.
Here we're in Manenberg. This is the place where, with my foundation, Champions for Children, I'm going to implement the Champions Playground project.
Do you want to play with us?
Yes, we're clay.
Manenberg has one of the highest rates of gang violence in Cape Town. After dark, this uneven pitch is the territory of violent drugs dealers. Champions for Children will be implementing an educational program here, which will incorporate many different aspects, from building a center which will educate children, to running community programs, especially through sports. My foundation is working with the University of the Western Cape. On this campus, like on Robben Island, education and the anti-apartheid movement went hand in hand.
UWC became the center of struggle, a fierce battle with the apartheid regime. This campus was consistently under siege. People were killed here, many were imprisoned here. But the university prevailed, and in 1994 it becomes an important site for education in the new South Africa.
A lot of people, they don't really get how sports can educate and how it can affect kids. Can you give us some more insight of that?
Well, I think there's no more powerful agent than sport, because when you play a sport and it's a team sport, you've got to understand that you are one of, and the success of the whole depends also on you. One of the biggest challenges facing our new nation is the challenge of building community. How do you actually do it?
Nice to meet you.
And sport is a wonderful way of bringing people together. So anybody who thinks of sports simply as a physical matter is so far off the mark.
Look at the fun they're having. We want to keep them interested in sport. We want to keep them interested in their schools, activities, and keep them far away from the drugs and from criminal activities. What are the most important issues you have to deal with here?
Most important issues is like drugs, unemployment. Those are the major issues. So if they can be educated, they can see that there's no need for them to turn to drugs, there's no need for them to turn to crime. Well, sometimes the World Cup starts, then when it's finished, everybody just goes away and we're back to square one. So I'm happy that there are people like you who decided, no, even if the World Cup is finished, but we need to do something continuously to this area.
It's about leaving a legacy, right?
It's a legacy, yes.
Yeah, great stuff, Clarence. Brilliant what you're doing. And talking about that legacy, it's another example of how sport can make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. You know, they're so hungry for growth, and you know, having the possibility to add something in their lives is a wonderful feeling, and it was a great experience indeed. And it's not finished yet, but we have to make sure that everybody's focused on, after, you know, the tournament, what can we do? And that's why I think it's important to show a bit of the story that a lot of people don't know.
I mean, the Robben Island story is something that a lot of people do know, and it's quite something being there, isn't it? It's like you can almost feel the history, can't you?
Yeah, you can, but if you go to the individuals that have been there, and even President Zuma, before entering in prison for 10 years, he couldn't read and write, and today he's president of this country. And there's so many examples that could inspire people around the world, so it's important, you know, to get the word across. Yeah.
And Nelson Mandela, who of course missed the opening ceremony because of that tragic death of his great-granddaughter, he's still hoping to make the World Cup final. We're hoping to see him there when Holland plays Spain, but he's been to see the Ghana team that did Africa proud, of course, reached the quarter-final. There is Nelson Mandela, obviously getting on in years now, but it'd be great to see him, wouldn't it, Clarence, at the final?
Yeah, it would be great. It would be another important moment for the whole continent of unity. He's the man that has made it happen, and it will be wonderful for him also to just, you know, say farewell to the World Cup by being there.
Absolutely fantastic man, an inspiration. Somebody that's incarcerated for 24 years or whatever it is, he comes out and he realises the only way forward is not to look back. It's truly awesome. It really is. No bitterness whatsoever. I mean, just a fantastic man.
Incredibly forgiving human being.
Well, it's another part of the story of this great country. I mean, there's so much history to it that it's incredible. We've all loved being here.
And let's hope the World Cup does indeed make some sort of difference.